When it comes to plotting your data in Excel, it's going to become important, especially if you've taken a lot of measurements to figure out how accurate your measurements are, if there's any variation, and then from there try and figure out maybe what could have been the causes of that variation. So just to show you how we can do this, in this case, I just made up some sample data. We have the concentration in teaspoons, so a quarter teaspoon, 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, and then these times I just made up for the creep time. So you can see I took a bunch. These are fairly close. A little bit of variation here. There's a pretty wide variation here. Again, I made these up, but this will kind of highlight what we're trying to do. So the first thing you're going to want to do is calculate your averages. Excel is pretty powerful. If you ever want it to do a calculation for you, you choose the cell where you'd like the answer to go, hit equals, and there's a whole library of different tools you can use. So if we just start to type the word average, that will pop up. And if we select that, you'll see our cursor inside of these parentheses. So I just have to go highlight what I'd like to calculate the average of and hit enter. Same thing for standard deviation. I can hit equals, and I'm just going to start to type standard deviation. Actually, just have to type S, and it's the first one on the list. That might be because I used it last, but it's STDEV. You choose that, the same thing will apply. I'll choose the data in the quarter teaspoon set and hit equals. Now, the nice thing about using Excel is once I have these kind of equations in here, I can actually highlight both of them, and you'll see a small blue square in the corner. If I mouse over that until I get the black crosshairs, I can click and drag. When I let go, it will automatically recalculate these. So you can see that this column is based on B3 to B10. Well, this automatically, through dragging, changes it to C3 through C10 and D3 through D10, so it saves a lot of time. Now in this case, we're going to make, it's off to the side here, we're going to make a column. So if I choose column, you'll see right now it's blank. I'll move this out of the way. What I can do is I can go to select. Let me select my data. There's no, let's see here. There's no series here, so I'm going to add one. And it's going to say, what would you like on the x-axis? So if I choose that little, I'll go back for a second. If I choose this little kind of icon here, I can choose what I'd like on the x, which in this case I'd like to be my concentrations, and go to the y. And in this case, my y is going to be the averages. So I'm going to have to go behind this graph here, but hopefully you remember these averages are here. If I hit enter now, it's going to go ahead and it's going to give me the graph that I'm looking for. I don't like this legend, so we can get rid of that. If you go to chart layout, you can add whatever, titles, horizontal axis, title below. You can do all of that, put your chart title, everything. So you can format that as you see fit. The only other thing we want to be able to put in here are these standard deviation bars. So we already went ahead and we calculated these. So how do we incorporate them? And that's actually easy enough. We just go ahead and we double click on our bars, and you're going to get this Format Data Series menu. It might pop up in options, whatever. But choose error bars. Generally, we want to put both. We want to see standard deviation in either direction. And I like to put the caps on them so you can see what they look like. We have a few options. We don't want to fix a value, percentage. Standard deviations, if you do that, it's going to apply the standard deviation for all of the data. So you can see here that it doesn't really apply individually. So the best way to do that would be custom, because we have these custom values that we already found down here, standard deviation. So we'll choose specify value, positive error. Again, I'm going to have to go behind this chart, but I can go ahead and drag these three columns, hit enter. And then it says, what about the negative? And I'm saying, it's the same values. I want to go above and below. So I'll choose my standard deviation and hit enter. Once I hit OK, you should see these adjust to the actual individual data sets. Of course, this pops up in the way, so I have to get rid of that. And now you can see the difference here. If you ever want to kind of get this in its own view, if you hold down Control and click on that chart, I always like to move the chart. Instead of being an object in my data sheet down here, I'm going to move it to its own sheet. The advantage to that is that it kind of fills up the whole page. So now you can see that based on my data, the 2 teaspoon had the highest creep time, but at the same time it also had the highest variation, so I'd have to go in and try and figure out what error might have caused those variations. But that's how you plot this in Excel.